Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. I am your host, Bryan Burns, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Molly Barbieri.
Hey, everyone.
Molly, really excited to have our current guest on. We have John Smith, the president and CEO of MOSI. John, thanks for coming on, being on the podcast with us.
Thanks for having me here.
There's obviously a lot going on with MOSI right now, and there's a ton that we want to get into about what's currently going on at MOSI, future projects that are going to be happening at MOSI. But first...
And before you say that, you've been saying MOSI. So if anyone doesn't know, MOSI is the Museum of Science and Industry, right?
That's correct.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Tampa's Museum of Science
Tampa,
and Industry.
Yes.
I feel like MOSI's just so ingrained in
I
the
know,
lexicon.
MOSI means, it's funny, that's one of the reasons I ended up taking the job. MOSI actually means something, especially in Tampa Bay. It's a word in Tampa Bay, which is great for our branding. But yes, that's fair to point out that for people who might see the sign on the side of the road, Museum of Science and Industry, that's the same as MOSI.
That is MOSI.
So continue. Sorry.
All right, thank you. And you mentioned it there. You came to Tampa Bay. So this was 2022 when you came and you took over MOSI, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Came here. I've been here just over 3 years now.
And where were you before this?
I was outside Philadelphia at a museum called the Reading Public Museum, which was a more art, history, science, planetarium, arboretum, all rolled into a children's museum, everything rolled into one kind of thing. And but prior to that, I had run a dedicated science center for kids in New York. And so always had known of MOSI and had been to MOSI several times for different things throughout my career. So
a lot of Northeastern museums previously to coming down here to the sunshine of Tampa.
Yeah, I started my career in Indianapolis and then Northeast. And then, we've steadily been moving our way down south.
I know when I first went to MOSI, and this was back in, I moved here in 2005. It was probably 2006, 2007. I went to MOSI, and the IMAX was so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go in and you watch something. I remember I watched something on the Nile River, and you're looking to your left, and you can see mountains, and then you look to your right, and you see the river coming down through the savannah. And it was just so cool that you could just kind of sit
surrounded
back
by
and
it.
you're surrounded, exactly, by the whole thing. Which is why in 2017, I didn't understand, why would you close that? Why is this going away? So when you come in, is that kind of one of your big priorities? Is we got to get this back up and running and an even bigger capacity than it was at that time to what we're seeing now?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I didn't know when I finally said yes, I didn't know exactly what the path would be to a sustainable, strong MOSI. But as I got into the facilities and really looked, especially at that IMAX building, it was obvious. So closing the IMAX made sense because the IMAX relationship was very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
The world was going digital. That was film-based. It was very expensive to convert, those kinds of things. And IMAX is problematic. Now there's an IMAX in every movie theater, So when it was first built in the 90s, IMAX is unique. By the time it closes, there's an IMAX everywhere.
Right.
So it's not as interesting. But what became obvious, I've run at two prior spots, I had run digital dome theaters and planetariums.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the infrastructure and I thought, hey, we could, and sadly they could have done this conversion in 2017 for a fraction of what it cost me, today. But, I looked around and I had some experts come in who I'd worked with before and said, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why this doesn't make sense in this building. And they came in and they're like, dude, if you were building a building today to do what you want to do, this is the building you'd build.
Yeah.
And so what should have been $100 million capital project, if we didn't have the building, we were able to do for a few million because the infrastructure was there. So that was the linchpin that brought everything together. I mean, there were a lot of things that needed to be fixed at MOSI and really still are. We're always trying to continually improve and innovate. But that was the thing where I said, if we can make this happen, there's the future of MOSI.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a pretty big grabbing point for people too, because that's what they see also on when they're driving by.
Well,
I think that's also a very
it's an iconic building.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying, it's on the Tampa Monopoly board for crying out
Yeah.
loud. That building means something, and to reuse it is important. to reuse it in the right way
Mhm.
is super important.
Yeah.
And that's what we hit upon. So we had started doing some stuff in that building before we had the money to renovate the theater and get the planetarium up and going, because we wanted to reintroduce people to that building because it is so iconic and so cool. But then to fully activate it as the second largest planetarium in the United States and a digital dome theater. You think IMAX was cool? Come back in and see one now. We call it an 8K theater. It's almost 9K the way that everything is configured. It's the same kind of experience that you had before, except the content is so much more broad now because everything's digital. So we can fly you to the moon or to other solar systems. We can do digital movies that are about. We just opened one a couple weeks ago about called Expedition Reef, about the importance of sustaining oceans through regenerating coral reefs. I mean, there's really no content. I know you're a former Lightning guy. The Lightning came over to investigate the possibility of doing Lightning watch parties in the dome, and we put a hockey game up, and we're like, yep, we can do it. Now, when you do format that's not shot for the dome, it's not full 360, but still, we had 150 teachers in this morning for a teacher training in what I call Tampa's largest PowerPoint, because we can just plug your computer in and put a PowerPoint up, and crazy. Even that is really impressive. So yeah, it's amazing.
I visited, or I think it was before it even really opened, me and two of my colleagues got to go see the digital dome and kind of talk to the people who were doing all the technical aspects of it. And it was just super, super interesting seeing all the calibrations and hearing how much went into it. And I know you guys are partnered with USF and you're working with some of the students. Is that right? Too?
Yeah, they have the opportunity to come over and do. Bloomberg Philanthropy's helped us build a computer lab that's almost done. That'll have digital dome production capabilities.
That's awesome.
So yeah, trying to work with USF and other universities and high schools. Just in and of itself, it's kind of a technological marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, to make a single image that large and that clear requires a seaming of 10 huge projectors together. So that's what you were getting to see is that, you put one up and it does this little segment, and that, and they all seam together to make this one amazing image. It's really remarkable. And the public has really responded. We opened April 1st, and we got some, comments about, is that an April Fool's joke or whatever? Yeah, right. We're like, no, this is really happening. And man, attendance has been amazing. The public has really responded to
even
to
the design of the seating and just the arrangement of everything, because the closer that you get down to, because it's kind of on a
it's on a slant.
A slant. Yep. So the closer that you get down to the bottom, the chairs are more slanted, so that you're kind of at a more, I don't know,
you're
laid
lying
back
down
viewing
almost,
experience, and it's really, really cool.
And you can and I tell people that all the time. They say, "Well, where should we sit?" Because usually in a planetarium, the farther back you are, the better. There's not a bad seat in the house. No, there really isn't. It's incredible. Yeah. And for some of our content, some of the trippier movies and some of our laser music shows and stuff, I enjoy sitting up front because you are almost fully reclined in those really nice airplane seats, that they have in first class that I never get to fly in. But if you've had a drink at the bar downstairs and then you come up and you're watching Pink Floyd for 45 minutes, you're like, whoa, this is killer, man. So it's a great experience.
I went and saw the Arcadia Earth film.
So that's another very trippy.
Super great. Very immersive.
Yes.
It was just very kind of felt like a simulation in a way of I was in it. It was super cool.
Yeah, we're doing Arcadia Earth, Mesmerica. There's a new one that's about to debut in November. Those are independent film producers who are then renting our space. It's a whole business line that I knew existed, but that I hadn't planned on doing right away. But to be honest, we were able to staff up. And so, I mean, that theater is in use. Matter of fact, I can tell you, we're booked every Wednesday through Sunday night from now through the end of the first quarter of 2026. Wow. That's great. That's outside even just MOSI programming. We're open 10 to 5 every day. Yeah. We close at 5 and then we reopen at 5:30 for things like Arcadia Earth and Mesmerica to come in. It's incredible. Having a restaurant and bar on site has really also changed things, because people used to think that MOSI was just for kids.
Right.
And, we would do adult only programming and we would try and bring adults in. And I kept saying over and over again, it doesn't matter how many times we tell them, and nothing says, hey, this is a place for an adult like a bar.
Yeah.
You know, like being able to get a beer or a cocktail or whatever. And so people are coming for those shows like Mesmerica or Arcadia Earth. They're coming, getting a drink, staying for dinner. They're doing multiple laser music shows, you know, whatever it might be. It's a whole date night thing.
It really is.
And it's really fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's funny too is on the earlier side of the day, you know, we open at 10 o'clock and we are seeing a huge demographic shift for our 10:30 and 11:45 planetarium shows. Busloads of senior citizens coming and just coming to have an outing, check it out. They come to the 10:30 show, they stay, they have lunch, and they go into the 11:45 show because it's a different show every, 5 different shows throughout the day. And so in a place where you used to just see little kids running around with their parents or their grandparents, now you have these couples coming for daytime dates as well, which is, it's really awesome. It's reintroducing MOSI to the community, you know, really the entire community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that's such a great activity for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys are doing the Science After Dark program as well. Is that just another way of trying to court, you know, a different audience, the more adult, 21 plus? You have the bar kind of aspect to that as well.
Yeah, you know, so Science After Dark, Science of the Cuban Sandwich, which is coming up. You know, events like that are 18 plus or 21 plus. It depends on, you know, on how we do it.
Yeah.
Everybody can experience MOSI. And we don't, you know, for Science After Dark, we don't change what MOSI is.
No.
We do the same things, same exhibits. It's just there are no kids there. So adults get to be kids. They don't have to worry about kids. It's not like there's a line for the bed of nails. It's just adults after adults. We do fun stuff. We make liquid nitrogen ice cream. You know, so at Science After Dark, we put some booze in it. You know, you can do that kind of stuff. But it's really a great time, and people get to experience, because I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're a PhD and whatever. There are questions about science, and you know, our show right now is on artificial intelligence. You know, nobody knows about there's like 5 people in the world who understand what's going on. And, you know, so you can come in no matter where you are on the age or education spectrum, and you can learn something. It's just about doing it on your own terms. And that's why. So people who are like, well, I'm not going to go to MOSI at noon on a Wednesday where there's a school group there. But on a Friday night and there's, restaurants and bars serving food and drink. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Was an adult, you know, you go in at the noontime slot and there's all these kids there, and like, you don't want to be you don't want to cut in front of a kid to go at the display, but like, I want to see it too, you know, but the kids, they want to see it too.
Yeah.
So.
But I also think it's great to go on a Friday night, and that also kind of gives adults like an opportunity to connect with their inner child and kind of ask those questions and just kind of like explore and just kind of, you know, be a curious cat.
Exactly. You don't feel like, oh, I'm a dummy because this 8-year-old could figure out the circuit faster than I could. Now there's no 8-year-old there to put the pressure on you. So you can do it yourself.
I had a blast in the hurricane simulator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with long hair like yours, that's always fun. Good pictures.
I wanted to back up real quick to something you said, that it's an 8K theater that's almost 9K.
Yeah.
What makes something 9K? Like, what is missing from the 8K that makes it 9K?
It's just the resolution, and when they actually do, it's way above my head and my technical expertise, but when they, we knew that the number of projectors at the brightness level, the number of projectors that we were installing at the brightness level, and the way the everything was going to be seamed together, we knew we could hit at least an 8K resolution. Now, most content is only shot at 4K.
Yeah.
So 8K is just, you know, better. But then when they finally put everything together, got everything aligned, and then there's a way that they can test to see what that resolution and the brightness and everything is, it comes out to be almost 9K. So it's technologically speaking, so it's the second largest planetarium dome in the country. But from a technological standpoint, we're way more advanced than the one that's bigger. And the one that's bigger is only 3 feet bigger.
Right, it's just very slightly bigger.
It's a very, right. But ours is technologically so much more advanced. And so that's why the experience is just so killer.
Yeah. You mentioned the artificial intelligence exhibit that you guys have there now. I've read there's also one where you can fly drones.
Yeah. So the Suncoast Drone Zone. So Suncoast Credit Union was generous enough to sponsor it for us. We had tested it on a pilot program you can't fly drones outside legally anymore without all kinds of different rules and
permits
stuff.
and all of that. Yeah.
So we had this great outdoor space at MOSI, but we couldn't take people out there. Plus, it's along Fowler, and somebody loses control of a drone, it's going to crash into somebody's car.
Right, yeah.
So we tested it inside, and man, people just love it. Everybody wants to do it. And so Suncoast was nice enough to, generous enough, the Suncoast Foundation contributed to us for a 3-year underwriting to build out this huge drone zone with 4 different flying stations in it. So we have multiple people. You can kind of graduate up. You can come to the beginner station. One of our educators will teach you how to fly the drone. And then if you're really good at it, you can go to one of the other stations and go through obstacles. There's a whole obstacle course. Wow. You can take off and land. It's really, really cool. And so that's an outstanding experience that we have throughout the day. It's guided with our educators. Obviously, we don't just leave drones lying around for people to just pick. That could be a little dangerous. But we also just entered into a partnership with Amazon. Amazon is about to announce some big drone-related news in the Tampa Bay region, and they're going to actually do it at MOSI. But Amazon has picked MOSI as their West Coast of Florida partner for science education, especially around drones, and trying to build the workforce development because the wave of a lot of industries is learning how to fly drones. So we do it because it's cool and it's fun, right, at MOSI. But everything that we try to do at MOSI, also we try to link to a career pathway so that kids or even adults who are retraining see that there are jobs locally in the Tampa Bay area that they can do if they get some science and technology background. And we're even working toward going through summer camps, taking our drone programming, practicing in our drone zone to where once you become 16, then you're old enough to sit for your drone pilot's license, and you'd be able to do that at MOSI and get trained and then leave a MOSI camp with an actual, career pathway certificate. So great. That's really what that's MOSI's new pivot. We've always been really good at getting people, kids especially, interested in the sciences or STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Yeah. But what we're trying to do now is make that direct linkage to a career pathway so that they understand, especially parents or some teachers, gaming, coding, it's not just kids on devices. Don't think that that's always a bad thing, because in a guided way, that can lead to a fantastic career and keep our local brains, here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I needed this guy around when I was a kid playing video games and trying to convince them that was going to lead to a career.
I know, exactly. We have a fresh understanding of that now.
Yeah. The drone experience, that is a permanent exhibit?
Yeah, as permanent as anything is at MOSI, right? We're always changing, but it's not leaving anytime soon.
It's indefinite right now.
Yeah, so it's there, and it's there operational 363 days a year, basically. We're closed on Thanksgiving and Christmas. But if you come to MOSI sometime during the day, one of our educators will be out there teaching people how to fly drones in the drone zone.
And then the AI experience, I read that's through like January 4th.
January 4th, yeah. So we do a mix of the exhibit pathway, which is always changing and we're always trying to update. But then we always try to also have a touring exhibition that's here. So Giants, Dragons, and Unicorns from the American Museum of Natural History just closed recently. That was a great summer exhibit. And then we just opened AI a couple weeks ago. It's called Artificial Intelligence, Your Mind and the Machine. And that's here with us through January 4th. Then we'll flip that space, and a couple weeks later, a new show will open.
Yeah. So obviously, lots of great things that you've already implemented at MOSI since you've been there. Is there anything on the horizon that you can maybe tease us or give us a little bit of insight into maybe some future happenings at MOSI?
Opening the theater was really critical because we had a digital dome planetarium before, but only sat 45 people.
Yeah.
So school groups, when they come, if you bring your 4th grade from, pick your elementary school, that's usually 120 kids in a grade level. Well, to get 120 kids through that planetarium required 3 different shows back to back to back. That's an hour each. And that means as a visitor, if you come with your family, you can't get into the planetarium if there's a school group there visiting. So now your experience isn't as great. With the new theater, now we don't have that problem. Because that constraint has been lifted, Hillsborough County has already agreed to send every 4th grader in the district through MOSI on their field trips starting in the coming school year. So that obviously strengthens us, more people coming, more kids involved. And then we're in the process, that big concrete building that was the main MOSI building for years that closed in 2017, we're taking back floors 3 and 4 of that building and fitting those out as classrooms. So we've had 30,000 square feet of classroom space in the original MOSI building at 50th and Fowler. Those are now being relocated to be contiguous to our campus. So what that means is those kids can come on field trips and have a classroom experience, and we can do more with, computer labs, Minecraft camps, scout camps, Boys and Girl Scouts camps, and more programming because that's connected to the dome. So now when you come for a planetarium show, we can say afterwards, hey, we're going to have Ask an Astronomer in the classrooms. So if you want to go down to the 3rd floor, you can go and do that. And that'll be just an add-on to your experience. So that's coming, and we hope to have those classrooms done later this year, and then opened up mostly for school groups, but again, for general programming as well.
Yeah.
So that's really the next thing we're trying to tick off, which then helps us raise more money, do more things, see more people, reinvest into the physical plant, bring in bigger and better shows. And then the next one after that is what's going to happen with the old planetarium space. We've got some really killer ideas about a 4D immersive theater, kind of a trip through space related to weather. I just need about 6 figures in funding to make that happen. So if there's somebody out there listening or watching who wants to stroke a check, I'm easy to find at the building at MOSI. And we'd be happy to talk about that. So those are really the next couple of improvements that we're looking to make.
Yeah. I think I remembered reading an interview that you did where you talked about the digital dome, and there's even a possibility of maybe making it like a concert venue, or you see this vision maybe in the future, bringing in concerts and kind of like a Las Vegas Sphere type of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, we're doing some of that with our laser music shows. So that's not live music, but we've had several sellout Taylor Swift shows, for example.
I knew you did the Taylor Swift one.
It's been really amazing. And those are package shows. We actually just there's a new Prince show that we just did, where you come in and you're in the dome, and for 45 minutes you're sort of hearing the greatest hits and you're seeing the cool visuals. What we hope to layer on to that is to start bringing live bands as well to perform at the in the front of the theater, and then allow our planetarists to sort of freestyle with cool visuals. And so back to that Mesmeric or Arcadia Earth experience, or the laser music shows, to where you'd be seeing a live band play while you're seeing some crazy visuals going on, trips through outer space and that kind of thing. I did that at my last museum. We had a program called Jazz Under the Stars, and the coolest part is watching the bands play. And as they're playing, they're just looking up the entire time because they want to see what's going on up there too. So I do see that as something that'll be rolling out hopefully as early as 2026.
Awesome.
We'll start booking for that.
All right. And I've also been seeing in the news, there's lots of talk about development going on around MOSI right now with the 74 acres that I guess the facility is on. You guys, MOSI takes up 7 acres of that. So there's some space where there's, some ability to do some things. And obviously that's an area of Tampa right now that's kind of on the upswing with USF where it is, with the new football stadium they're talking about building on campus. So I know you can't really get into like too many specifics. I know I've seen there's going to be a sports facility. The latest thing I saw was there's maybe going to be a hockey rink with an ice facility. But just looking at it from a broad perspective, like when you look at maybe what happened with Midtown Tampa, where you took an area that was kind of unappreciated, not really a lot going on there, and you put this Midtown in the middle of it, and suddenly you've got this thriving business retail scene that's going on there. Do you envision maybe that this could happen with MOSI, like being the centerpiece of this, I don't know, would you call it Uptown or whatever this
Uptown,
new development area could be?
Yeah, not maybe or could be, but is gonna and will be. Yeah, absolutely. So, the MOSI property, what we call the MOSI property, which is about 80 acres, and then MOSI sits in that core 7 or 8 acres of it. The county, it's county owned, and it's really the last big parcel in Hillsborough County. And with USF, like you say, on the upswing and redevelopment of that whole Fowler area, I mean, we're walking distance basically from Moffett and the VA and, you know, just a lot of things in that area. And, you know, they had done an RFP for redevelopment. The county had released an RFP for redevelopment right before COVID. And that sort of envisioned MOSI going away. And COVID happened. They had to hit the brakes on that. And I think some of the feedback that they got was, well, how come MOSI has to go away? And of course, back then, MOSI was really struggling financially. It wasn't a great thing. Now, fast forward, and MOSI's not struggling. MOSI's strong. Did more than 250,000 visitors last year, and so it's. I think it's very analogous to Midtown, or even Water Street. I think the difference being now with those redevelopments. So Midtown, there was nothing there.
Yeah, like literally nothing.
Right. Literally, there was nothing there. And now with our redevelopment and the football stadium that's going in across the street, which is literally their front entrance to my front entrance at MOSI, is less than a mile.
Yeah.
And there's a pedestrian walkway across Fowler.
Yeah.
So it's safe, it's easy. We've got parking. They're going to need parking. You know, what do you do before and after the game with your family? Do you want to come to the restaurant bar? Do you come to MOSI? Do you hang out? All those kind of things. To be able to activate those acres around MOSI with a fully functioning MOSI there, hey, that's just a no-brainer. And so the stuff that they're talking about, like you mentioned, the sports facility, the hockey rink, those are, I think, fantastic additions to what we're already doing. Similar audiences, people coming in from out of town.
Yeah.
You know, if MOSI wasn't there and you just built a sports facility there, which is essentially what they did in Pasco County, you know, there's a huge sports facility up there. It does very well. People coming from all over the country to play their volleyball and basketball games there or whatever. You know, if you come in for those travel leagues, you're going to play 3 games, but you don't know what times. And you play in the first game, you lose the first game. Well, now you're in the loser's bracket. You're not going to play again for another 4 hours. But if there's MOSI, what are you going to do for those 4 hours? Hey, it's right there. We don't have to go find something to do. So I think that works very well. I talk about all the time about, you know, their chocolate and our peanut butter. It goes, it's delicious together.
It's very
right?
symbiotic.
Yeah. And we need parking structures. We need more restaurants. We need more retail around us to help make us a destination. So we're already a destination, but once you're there, that's where we had to have our own restaurant and bar on site because there's not a whole lot in that area that you want to do. And so we would let people leave and then come back. But do you really want to do that? Not as a parent, it's a pain. So now all of that momentum, I think, just works very symbiotically together. And so I'm very excited. I said from the get-go when I got here to the county commissioners and the county administrator, I said, I almost don't even care what you decide to put on that property because unless you're really dumb, which they're not, nothing you put there is going to be bad for us. You're not going to put a waste treatment plant or a landfill or a cemetery there. So whatever you build is going to help us. But what's great is they've seen the upswing that MOSI's on. They've seen, you know, what we're doing and what we're accomplishing, not just what we're saying. And they're now leaning into it to say, oh, well, if we do this, that really plays into what you're doing there. And we need parking these times and you need parking these times. So it's not competing. You know, it's really fantastic.
Yeah. And hotel space too.
Hotels.
Because that's, you know,
critical.
Very near and dear to our hearts here at Visit Tampa Bay, but the hotel space and that component to it is going to be critical
absolutely.
too.
I say, you know, and I've talked to Santiago about this at Visit Tampa Bay, you know, so the hotels in our area, there's a couple. They're not the greatest. They're not destinations. You know, we have Busch Gardens right in our backyard, but it's you know, you just don't really stay around there when you come in. With new hotels in the area, it changes everything because it's how you guys are funded. You're funded through bed tax. So having destination hotels in MOSI's backyard means that now you're more incentivized to drive traffic in, to bring people in. It makes it easier to do your jobs at Visit Tampa Bay or, you know, at the Sports Authority, any of those places that are looking to bring people in. And now you can say, hey, you may not want to stay downtown, or you may not want to stay in Midtown. You may not want to stay in St. Pete. You may want to stay in Uptown for these reasons. Now, I'm not saying everybody. I mean, there's still going to be that audience that wants to stay Ybor, wants to stay in downtown.
No, but I
if
think
you're
a certain demographic will want
they're
to kind of move
absolutely.
up there and stay up there and visit up there. It kind of changes the dynamic a little bit.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for families, if you're coming for the sports stuff, you're coming to see USF, you're coming to MOSI, now you're staying right there, then obviously it's easier for a restaurant. It's easier for a bar. It's easier for retail because the people are there. And, it's not a build it and they will come. They're already coming.
Right.
Now we can build around it.
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, great stuff. This was a lot of fun. Love hearing about what you've done already with MOSI and love hearing about what MOSI could be even greater in the future and what that vision looks like. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Molly, you got any other questions? Or
No, I think we're just super excited to see Tampa Bay grow into, something more than it already is.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
it's
excited
crazy.
to see it blossom.
Like Midtown 5 years ago.
It was
wasn't
quite literally
here.
like nothing. It
5
was
years from
literally
now,
dirt.
we could have a new area that everybody wants to go
Right,
to.
and now we
Uptown,
have
centered
2
around
destination
MOSI
hotels and
Absolutely.
great
Yeah.
restaurants and fantastic shops.
Yeah,
So, I
absolutely.
think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it blossom.
Yes, so am I.
All right. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, you bet.
And that's another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. Join us next time as we unlock more treasures around Tampa Bay.